His entire climbing style is just very much board style. Like he has unreal single arm control. He got to jump to anything, all points off, no problem, hold it. It's really, really, really impressive. Kind of one of the best I've ever seen.
My personal favorite board climber to watch on Instagram. I'll just put that out there.
Oh,
he's my favorite. And for those of you who think that won't translate to real rock, I will point towards him campusing Roses and Blue Jays and iconic Testpiece, V13 in the East.
Yep.
He campused it. He
campused it.
He did not use his feet. He campused it.
He campused it.
V13.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Board Talk is back. The #1 podcast in the world focused on board climbing. It's true, Michael.
It is.
Don't laugh, dude. It's true.
No, I'm not. I was thinking about it before we got on. I was like, do we need a jingle for this? If you love boards and you're in the right place, Board Talk.
Dude, way to commit. That was amazing. That was that could be the cold open. Just normal open. Okay, Michael. I was gonna ask you how you're doing. It sounds like you're doing really well. Have you been hitting the whiskey pre-podcast again, or?
No, I just got good sleep.
Okay.
I didn't hit the whiskey. I decided we'll save that for when we're together and not at 11 o'clock in the morning. But no, I've been, for those who don't know me well, I have horrible sleep problems.
It's the whiskey. That's you drinking too much whiskey, dude.
No, I really don't. Honestly, nobody can figure out what it is. I think it's anxiety induced. So when shit like this is coming up, I definitely don't usually get very good sleep. So it's always a celebration when I make it through the night without waking up at 3 a.m.
Sounds like we cured it, dude. You're psyched for Board Talk. Yeah. You're off the sauce. I don't know if I believe you because I just heard you sing a little jingle to start out the podcast. But your secret's safe with me. Okay, sure.
No, I'm good, man. It's good.
Well, dude, I'm also psyched. I finally got my 2024 MoonBoard set up in my garage, and I am actually climbing on it. Dude, I've had these holds for like a year. I've had them for a year. It took me that long to get them up, but my excuse is I was building a climbing wall in my garage right next to my MoonBoard for my kids. So, I had a bunch of plywood and nails sticking up in the landing. Wasn't conducive to climbing.
What do you mean?
Yeah. I mean, just don't fall. And then we got basically a board gym here in Reno called The Block. And it's one of those gyms where there's no one at the front desk. I shouldn't say that. There's no employee at the front desk, but Matt, one of the founders and owners, he's always there, which is cool. When the people you're interacting with that quote unquote work at the gym own the gym, just wonderful place, wonderful guy. We had lots of boards there. I had low friction for going. When I say friction, I mean my desire to go was not impeded by checking in. I don't know what I'm saying. I mean, low friction. I showed up a lot. And so had a really cool gym nearby, but finally got the MoonBoard 2024 up in my garage. I climbed on it and I liked it.
That's great. That's great to hear. I mean, for those people who are like, how are we going to talk about anything but tension? I have been on the MoonBoard since our last talk. I've been on it. I've been doing my homework. So I can't wait to launch into it with you because there's a lot of things to talk about it.
Well, that's our topic number 2.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of topics.
I mean, there's lots of stuff that happens each month, and I do think it's fun to make sure we get to do a little deep dive on different things. And the 2024 set is just top of mind for us. But I did want to point out a couple of videos that, well, actually, I say point them out. You sent them to me because they were dope. And you're like, you should watch these. And I just watched Allison Vest and Kyra Condie climb on the 2016 MoonBoard layout, which sounds like a lot of fun in itself, except for then they tilted it back to as much as 55 degrees. So, MoonBoard fixed at 40, but their board happened to be on an adjustable board. And so they climbed on some of the classics and then tipped them all the way back to 55. And I got to tell you, I wish I could tilt my MoonBoard back too, because that looked like a lot of fun.
Oh, totally. I've always wanted to do that. I haven't been to a gym that has one on an adjustable wall, so I've just never been able to do it. But yeah, for those who haven't seen it, they climbed three classics. One was a V4, Wuthering Heights. It's a pretty well-known classic. Kami Hito was like a V5 at 40, and then they did Will's Variation, which is a V7. And yeah, man, like unsurprisingly, they did most all of them. Kyra ended up doing, not to give anything away, but I mean, it'll be out a long time by the time this comes out. But
All spoilers here. Nothing
yeah,
but
yeah, all
spoilers.
spoilers. We got to talk about it. But yeah, Kyra ended up doing the V7 at 55, which I was like, what? How hard do you think that actually is? Because I mean, on the tension board, we have like this rule of thumb, and it's not always exactly accurate, but it's like every 5 degrees kind of bumps the grade one grade. Obviously, some holds are too slopey to it scales really fast, so it's not always the case. But yeah, so I was like doing the math, and she mentions in the video she thinks it's like V11, but I'm like, man, like MoonBoard V11 55, like Jesus Christ. Because I mean, I already feel like the 2016 on average is like 2 grades off from like the real grade anyway. So I'm like, Jesus. But yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one to watch.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, dude, she called it V11. It was a good send when she did it too. Kyra is so strong. One of the things that really stood out to me is when they were doing, I think it was Wuthering Heights, the V4, really early on in the show or in the YouTube, and they both said that it was easier at 45 than 40. And it's just like, it's so interesting how climbing works, where when stuff gets steeper, like in some ways really steep stuff, you don't reach up, you almost reach kind of behind. You can jack your feet up higher. It doesn't stick your butt out. Well, it does stick your butt out, but it's a different kind of pull against the holds. And I thought that was just fascinating that they both thought it was easier at 45 instead of 40, and then it got harder again.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. I think at 40 degrees, you're dealing with more of kind of a vertical, and you have to stay a little closer to the wall. I feel like a lot of things can get in your way. You know what I mean? Like when I'm as a shorter guy, like I'm always pulling my chest in to make those big moves, and sometimes if it's too vert, like I'm kind of skirting across. I could see what they were saying. Like it doesn't make the holds that much harder. You're not going as far, but you have the room to do it. Yeah, like I've definitely come across a lot of boulders where between 40 and 45, there's not much of a grade difference. It hangs you out in space a little bit more to make the move a little more comfortable without the holds being way harder. So yeah, I could see that.
It's just fascinating. And so as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, damn, these climbs look good steeper, like really fun steeper. And then I was looking at the comments, and I don't know how true this is, but someone said something along the lines of the MoonBoard was planned to be 50 degrees, but they measured it from the kickboard, and that made it 40 degrees. So you have like a vertical kickboard, and then that makes it less steep. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm doing geometry like with my arms in front of you, but hopefully you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can imagine why they would. I mean, I think that OG board in Sheffield in the schoolroom was 50 degrees.
It's a 50. Yeah.
So that's how I could see why if they were emulating that for their standardized setup, I could see why they would want to do that. But that's crazy. I mean, it would be really interesting to see how the holds would have differed, or even if they would have.
But what I'm wondering is maybe they designed those holds thinking it was going to be on a 50-degree board, or at least the early set. I don't know, like those yellow holds or some of those early ones. And then maybe like, when they put it out into the world, people measure, or, they had measure it from whatever that like measurements got wrong. And maybe it was supposed to be 50 degrees.
Maybe they tried it at 50 and they were like, oh shit, these holds are way too bad. Like there's no way in hell we can release this. Like as much shit as the 2016 gets and those OG holds get, I can't imagine what people would have said if it was standardized at 50 or locked in at 50, But yeah, man, I would love to try the board at different angles. It would be interesting to see how it scales, because looking at all the setups, I could imagine some would scale better than others. What I mean by scale is if you're going to make an adjustable thing, like you got to make sure that the holds kind of scale incrementally as it goes down. That was one thing we screwed up with the TB1. Like we had it didn't scale very well. It's supposed if you think about it, it should kind of do this like curve of sorts. And the TB1's kind of like step scaled. Like you would put it 5 degrees down and there would be like half the holds that were just unusable. So, but yeah, no, it'd be really interesting. I feel like a lot of those holds would go from bad to unusable pretty quickly. But also like some of the upper end boulders, like if they were to make it adjustable now, the size of moves that are pretty common at the upper end, I just feel like would almost be impossible at slammed angles because they're just not that big. The holds are not that big. And you're having to like go a mile and then hold a swing. Like it's just a whole another ball game between 40 and 55. So
pretty sure Ben Kim just said, hold my beer. Although I think he's like 18, so maybe it'd be like hold my Coca-Cola. I was gonna segue into Ben Kim's Instagram post where he just freaking crushed the TB2. He hadn't been on the mirror, I guess. It was his first day on the TB2 mirror, and he did 9 V13s. 3 of those were flashes. 3 of those were second goes. I think one of them took him 5 attempts. He did 2 V12s, 1 flash, 1 third go. So that's 11 climbs. I'm just going to say best board session of all time. And then he's like, soft. And I'm like, okay, let's say they're all soft. Like, let's say they just are. Like, let's just take it down 1 grade each. I'm like, oh, so you just did 9 V12s. That actually blew my mind. I know those climbs and they're fucking hard. Good job, Ben. Good job.
Yeah, I have no notes for that. I don't know. Like, first of all, they're not all V12. There's just no way. Like, let's just I see what you're saying just for the sake of argument, but like, they're just not. And I mean, one of those was 10,000 days, which was the first boulder we gave on the first Board Lords episode. And he did it in 2 goes. So yeah, awesome job, Ben. And by the way, if you guys want to follow his account, I'm trying to get in a better groove of shouting out board accounts because that'd be cool. Going on. I mean, that's where a lot of this shit goes on. So I want to make sure that people know where it's all happening and where it's coming out. But his board account is at cool.board.climbs. So cool board climbs on Instagram.
Very creative.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, man, that guy, I mean, he's been on the radar for Board Lords for quite some time, and he'll definitely be on there. We're probably fairly soon. We're just trying to get past this heat situation. It's be the heat of summer. We're not trying to have people get hurt, but yeah, I mean, also he did just turn 18, so we were like, we didn't want him to have to bring a legal guardian or anything. So like, I didn't even know that. It was funny because we wanted to have him on sooner, and I was like, well, shit, dude, this guy's 18. Jeez. Or sorry, he's 17, and we got to wait. Like, what is going on? Anyway, yeah, but if you don't follow Ben, he has just an unreal, like his entire climbing style is just very much board style. Like he has unreal single arm control. So he got to jump to anything, all points off, no problem, hold it. It's really, really, really impressive. Kind of one of the best I've ever seen.
My personal favorite board climber to watch on Instagram. I'll just put that out there. Oh, he's my favorite. And for those of you who think that won't translate to real rock, I will point towards him campusing Roses and Blue Jays, and iconic Testpiece, V13 in the East. Yep. He campused it. He did not use his feet. He campused it. V13.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty damn good.
He's climbed some climbs, even though he's underage. Real quick, you mentioned 10,000 days. That was on one of the first Board Lords episodes. So he did this V13 second go. It was on one of the first Board Lords episodes. And just to put this into context, which Board Lords were climbing on 10,000 days in that Board Lord episode, and how did they do on it?
Yeah, it was Noah. That was Noah's first appearance. Well, his first Board Lords. And then it was Ben Burkhalter and then Zach Galla. So, I mean, very seasoned athletes, especially in the board sphere.
I've heard of those guys.
They didn't do it in 2 goes. I'll just say that. They did all end up doing it, which was really cool to watch. But it took them a minute to figure it out and do it. Granted, Ben Burkhalter had seen it once before, but Noah and Zach, I think they were pretty fresh on it. It's not like they had really tried it. So, I mean, yeah. So that, just to put it in perspective, that's what we're dealing with here. That's the kind of people who are flying under the radar, who are not getting put in magazines. They are literally doing some of the most impressive physical feats in our sport. So yeah, we'll get him on a board, Lawrence.
Yeah,
That's going to be a fun one. I don't know what the hell to set for him. That's going to be really fun. Uh, so we'll see.
well, this is why I said like Ben Kim on a MoonBoard that kicks back to 55 and doing
Yep.
Black Beauty or something. Honestly, like that climb probably scales relatively reasonably. I imagine Black Beauty would not be like, I don't think it would be impossible. I'm not sure, but having that good undercut, having that good pinch, like I can imagine someone like Ben just kind of smashing it, but we'll see. Oh, dude, I meant to bring this up on Kyra and Allison's video. Allison has arguably some of the strongest fingers in the world. Like just, man, woman, child, even including Ben Kim. She has extremely strong fingers. And Kyra, I mean, dude, Kyra's incredibly strong as well. And something I found interesting was watching them kick back the MoonBoard. These holds get worse, but you would think Allison's fingers, like that's not a weak point of hers. So if the holds get worse, like I thought maybe she would get better in comparison to Kyra, but I don't know if they kind of stayed the same. They both had their successes and failures. And I just found that interesting because it made me think, like strong finger is very important, but then again, lots of more things going on in how you climb a steep climb than just having strong fingers. And yeah, I just thought that was like interesting, kind of seeing how their difference in abilities changed or actually kind of didn't change with it going steeper.
Yeah, no, totally. I think again, it's Allison having the spec she has, and I think no matter if she can hold the holds, like pulling between them is still a bit of a difficulty with how long her arms are and stuff. And the jump snatch, the ability to bend your arms and pull in and do all the things that Kyra was doing to do some of those other ones at 55, like it still takes you being able to pull between the holds. And I still think that regardless of her being able to hold the hold getting worse, and all that, I think it's still tough for her. That just the style is still tough for her. But I mean, that's not to say she still obliterated a lot of those at 50 and 55. So yeah.
Not trying to throw shade on Allison at all. More just, we were talking about how that 2016 set is very, very hands focused, and it is. But even in something that's very hands focused, there's so much going on. Like, and I just found that interesting. Just really, I don't know, man, just a cool kind of case study to get to watch.
No, for sure. It's weird to me that they haven't made or adapted the system to an adjustable system yet. I'm saying system again. It's not system board. My God. Anyway, but no, because it seems like an easy thing to just do and switch on. I mean, I don't know, about building that into the app or whatever. I don't know how hard or how difficult that might be, but yeah, I don't know. But either way, super cool to see those ladies throw around on an adjustable board like that.
Also, just cool to see. I just like seeing the board content go mainstream a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that means exactly, but more and more on YouTube, I'm seeing popular videos that are focused on boards. I know you guys are a pioneer with that over attention, but it's a big community, and seeing Kyra and Allison decide to put out a video focused on that and have like a kind of fun twist to it. Just awesome. Like, thanks you guys.
Totally.
Gals.
Yeah. And it has to happen. It like, if everything stays in a phone or on a board account, it's just not, it's got to open up to wider audiences for people who are maybe not as into it to understand it and see how fun it is to join in on. I mean, Kyra's been, she put out one also that was a bit of, I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was like a beginner's guide or something. It's like board climbing tips. She climbed on several different ones in that video, but they like stuff like that is really important. I mean, that's something we're kind of focused on too in the near term, is starting to, instead of just focusing on the niche of like the hard climbs and all of that stuff, there's a point at which we're going to start cranking out, just very beginner guide stuff, because there still is. There's just a barrier there, But yeah, the media certainly helps, and I think it's super cool to see more of that come out.
So I think I told you that I did a pod with Ravioli Biceps. It'll come out right before this one. Oh, and also I just want to toss in a disclaimer. I did this on Good Temps too, where we record like, I don't know, a week and a half before these come out. So if there's some new unbelievably cool news thing or video that comes out and we don't mention it, it's probably because we haven't seen it yet and this recorded before. But I was talking to Ravioli Biceps and he did all the 2016 benchmarks and that was incredible. And he's an incredible climber. But I actually thought that it was him putting it on Instagram. That was the big thing, the putting it onto social media, each climb, and not just, like you're saying, not just V double digit, but V4s, V5s. And I thought that was a bigger deal than people realize. And now you're talking about, let's not just have it be siloed on cool board climbing, Ben Kim's account. Like let's bring it into some more accessible things, like a podcast. We should do a podcast on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I mean, it's all in an effort to push the whole thing that we love, just all trying to do our best.
Well, the other media that I saw was, and we talked a little bit about this last time, is Moon Climbing has been putting out some more videos, and they just put out one with Sam Pryor and Ben Moon on the 2024 set, doing a ton of 7As and 7Bs. I'm not describing it exactly. They basically had like a competition where it was how many 7Bs can Sam do, how many 7As can Ben Moon do. And it was kind of based on their total grade ability. And then, it's kind of like a handicap, almost like a golf handicap. And just the thing I have to say is just Ben Moon climbs like Ben Kim. He jumps to things. He just grabs the shit out of them. This aggressive, dynamic style that we think of when we think of especially the MoonBoard, but kind of board climbing in general. I can't tell if the boards that we've created are styled after his style or if he just has adopted that style, but he climbs like a young board climber despite being not young.
Yeah, no, it was very impressive. A little bit more about it. So they were trying to do as many as they could in 30 minutes. I mean, it was on the 2024 set, and it was incredible how many they did. I mean, they did a shit ton of MoonBoard boulders in 30 minutes, and on a MoonBoard, it is very hard. So Ben stuck to 7A, and he ended up doing 15 of them. Sam stuck to 7B, and he ended up doing 17 of them. It's super impressive because they flashed most of them, which, I mean, maybe they had already done them before, but still, it's still hard. Yeah, I couldn't believe how many he did. Ben is just still so strong. And yeah, he we'll maybe get into this later, but like, I think that every board that's on the market is very representative of the people who made them. So of course he climbs like that on the MoonBoard because he made it. Like he kind of similar to like a lot of setters who set things, like they usually can. Not all of them can do the things they set. I'm not going to say that, but like a lot of times, if you can set within your climbing ability, you can do it fairly well, because you know how to do it. You set it. So
that's actually really cool, though, to have it be imbued with bias, whether on purpose or not. Like that's okay, like that. That's why when we talk about the MoonBoard 2016 set or 2024 set, it's kind of like, I know what you're talking about. Like, I know that style. Like you kind of, no matter what you do, you kind of can't get away from it. No matter how you set on it, it's like there's something baked in deeply.
Yeah, I tried some of those boulders the other day on my MoonBoard session, and just was thoroughly impressed because I was like, good Lord. I mean, Sam was diesel, like that guy. Like
he's
some of
so
those,
good, dude. He's
so good. He's super humble. You'd never think. I don't know what the attitude of a strong climber is, but anyway, he doesn't come off as this just crusher like he actually is. But I was also thinking this. I was like, man, I think that the 2024 was definitely the right setup choice for that challenge, because 2016 would have been bricked to try to do that, I think. But yeah, fun to watch. And I think it was beautiful work from Wedge, as always. Those guys are just doing a great job. They're really putting out a lot of really cool media.
Wait, say more about why the 2024 set was the right choice and why that would have been more difficult in the 2016.
In a nutshell, I mean, the 2024 has a lot more ergonomic holds going on than what's on the 2016. And, I'll talk about this more later, but,
now.
Well, a lot of the holds and the way they hit you in the same spots, and the fact that a lot of them don't taper as much as the ones on the 2024, I just think that it would be rugged to try to just speed climb within a span of 30 minutes on a lot of those holds, just from a comfort perspective. Like I think that there's a lot more comfort going on in the 2024 set than in the 2016 set. So I just feel like, and a lot of them for me hit me in the same spots, meaning I just think it would just wreck you so quickly. And I think the 2016 set, like especially with the yellow ones, like they're very three finger centric. And if you're dragging on a lot of those, it's just the same thing. I think the comfort thing would be the issue. It's not to say that when I really get into describing the 2024 in a second, like you'll understand what I'm talking about. But like it's just not the same. It's not to say that the 2024 is easier, but I think the style that the 2016 sort of breeds would just be really rugged to rapid fire on.
Well, it's interesting just also pointing out that the 2016 I think it's the only set of the MoonBoard sets. We're not going to talk about the mini MoonBoard, but there's 2016, 2017, 2019, 2024. And I believe 2016 is the only set that doesn't have every T-nut filled. Pretty sure on that?
Yes, I believe so. That is correct.
Yes. So you can see like how if you were doing 20 problems of the same grade, how you'd end up going through kind of similar holds. So that could lead to fatigue. And yeah, oftentimes I look back at my MoonBoard sessions and I usually will do about 20 climbs total. And that includes, a nice warm up of, maybe 7-8 climbs of, ascending in grades. And so doing 15 plus of the same grade, which definitely is not limit for those guys, because otherwise they wouldn't have done 15 in 30 minutes, but it's no joke. Like, they fell.
Yeah. That was a fun one to watch. I want them to continue making content because it's really good and always, again, super beautiful. Wedge just goes, they do an amazing job. So.
Okay, well, let's get into the specifics on the 2024 because, like I said, I just switched, and here's the big difference between the 2016 and the 2024 is that they don't have any holds that are the same. The 2016 is the yellow holds, the black holds, and the white holds, and the 2024 is wooden holds and blue holds. And maybe we should, before we go into the 2024 deep dive, let's get there by sharing the poll you just did on your Instagram where you asked what people's favorite set was. And yeah, as you draw that up, it was interesting. It's like, what's your favorite set? And you asked people to opine only if they had climbed on multiple sets, which I thought was a nice little caveat there.
Yeah. Honestly, if I really wanted an accurate spread, I would have asked, you can only answer if you've climbed on every one of them, because I still don't think I got an accurate. Well, let me just go ahead and tell you. So it basically, as most of you MoonBoard fanatics would guess, that 2016 won. It got 50% of the vote. The second place was 2024. Third place, very close after 2024, was the 2019, and 2017 was pretty far down there. I think that one's widely regarded as the least favorite. But I think what's going on with this is I think that a lot of these people have not tried the 2024. I would guess that most people that answered this have only tried 16, 17, and 19. Because a lot of people messaged me and they were just like, man, that is wild that everybody's just saying 2016 and that. And to me, it's not that wild because I talk to a lot of people who are obsessed with the MoonBoard. I'm one of them. I would say used to be. I still love it. And I understand where people are coming from. Like there's a lot of MoonBoard purists that are just like, no, this is the one. This is like, if you're going to MoonBoard, you got to go 2016. But it's just not. I don't know. Hey, let me just say this, and we'll get into what the 2024 and my opinions of it via this. I think that, in my opinion, the 2016 and the 2024 are the two best. And there's a reason, because I am partly I definitely love the 2016. I think the 2019 probably has a lot of possibility to it. It shares a lot. It's almost all the same holds as the 2016. It just has some wooden ones mixed in. So, and honestly, that one's the one that I have not gotten. I have not been able to climb as much on. So I can't really give a huge opinion about it. But I just think, to me, that the 2024 and the 2016 are just two different animals. that, in my opinion, almost represent two different, and I say this a lot, but two different areas or rock types and stuff like that, because the holds represented in there they're just so different. It's just not really apples to apples. Like, yeah, they're both on the MoonBoard, but I just think that both of them have their redeeming qualities. Now, that being said, I just think the 2024 is just like, so far to me, it's been the most pleasurable experience that I've had on the MoonBoard without compromising the core of what it is. Like, that's what I found about it. I think it's, again, much more pleasant to warm up on. It's definitely more accessible. It's probably the best choice. If a facility is going to get a MoonBoard, it's probably the best choice to put on there. Because while I think the 2017 is regarded as maybe one of the easier setups, I think the 2024, just because of the blue, well, even the wood holds, like they're just very ergonomic. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's easier. Yeah, it's still very much a MoonBoard. Like, the difficulty is very much still like in your hands, except it's just more ergonomic. But the difficulties are just rounded. Like, there's just poor holds on it. It's not just that they're big. Even the big ones on there are not that great. They're still very hard. They just don't hit you in all these weird places like the 2016 does. So that's the short of how I feel about it. I always had a problem with the 2016 holds where the sharpness, again, would destroy the creases of my fingers over time. I think that the 2016 has more of like the yellow ones are kind of like Hueco-esque nuggets to me, and like the black and whites are kind of this like sharp granite. There's nothing really like Southern or font-esque about it, in my opinion. But that's what the 2024 felt like to me. It was like hard in the way that the Southern holds are, the font type holds are. So,
dude, good breakdown.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask a little bit more about why you think that people love the 2016 set. And I say that because, so 50%, it was overwhelming majority. I did not vote for the 2016 set. I voted for the 2019 set currently. I feel like I haven't gotten enough on the 2024 to really say whether, like, it just, I don't know. And I climbed a little bit on the 2017. I think people didn't like it because of those red holds were almost like a Talon grip style. There's a lot of like circles. People got hurt on them.
I don't know what they were thinking about those red ones. I'm not trying to bash them. That one, I don't really like those either. I don't really know what they were meant to do. Yeah.
Same. I won't. Yeah. Let's not say any super negative about 2017, other than you can see that the community kind of agreed that the other ones were preferable. Mm-hmm. But I just want to, it's just like an interesting question why people love the 2016, because like, you got to think it's not like the makers like went into a cave for 10 years and were just like, this is the ultimate setup. It's cool. It's good, but they kept on going and shaping new holds. And, you would think that over the course of the next, 8 years, going from 2016 to 2024, it's not like they, we're going backwards. Like, they're like, hey, we saw some problems here with these holds. We filled out the T-nuts. We'll learn some things. Like, there'll be things on the 2016 set. Like, I was just on one. I was in someone's garage. I was trying to do this V11. It starts with a G, like almost like gerbil. I don't know. You go basically iron cross, like big move between two side pulls, and then slam into the finish white jug on the right side. And I was in my buddy's garage, and he's like, okay, you're going to eat it into the concrete. And, just like, it wasn't conducive to, like, you don't want to put giant jugs on the side, basically, then have to do massive driveways. So just my point is that they've learned along the way. And I have spent a ton of time with 2016. I have a lot of good things to say about, but I don't quite understand why people just are like, this is the best. Like, well, is it just the problems, the community that's built up, that like the history, like, are we just stuck in the past? I don't know. Like, any thoughts of why people are like this one,
I think it's a lot of that. And again, I think the vast majority have just had so much time with the 2016, and then total guess here, but like, if they go to a gym in 2016, let's say the gym decided to put up the 2017, they probably all revolted because they were just like, this sucks. This is not what I wanted. And so then I would say that it would probably make the facility a little less likely to try another one. So they probably all went back to 2016, meaning that 2019 probably didn't get nearly as much traffic on it either, right? And then at this point, again, I don't think that enough people have tried the 2024. And that's my honest opinion. I totally get it. There's nothing really like it. It's effective in what it does. It's simple. It's kind of this thing that you fall in love with for some weird reason, and you just want to stick with it. Again, I just think that people are kind of being a little closed-minded to it, and or have just not really had enough time comparatively to really sink into all of the other ones to really give an objective opinion. That doesn't make any sense. An opinion, an objective opinion, but just look at it objectively. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I tried my best to do that with the 2024. But yeah, again, I just think that they did, like, for the 2024 was a really good move for them. I think if you look at there's 10 sets now, hold sets within the MoonBoard catalog. They all kind of represent a different rock type in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my opinion, the yellow ones, right? Those are a good bit like, again, like I said, they're Waco-esque. They kind of, a lot of time, they're very 3-finger centric. You're not using 4 fingers on a lot of those. Some of the pinches you do, a lot of them are very thumb oriented. So it's like 3-finger and thumb is a lot of those yellow ones. And the white ones, they are more 4-finger centric, but they're very sharp edges, very granite-like. Something like you would find at Rocky Mountain or Coronico or something, very sharp angles, which are great. So there's a little bit of variety in the 2016, but they're all kind of heinous. Whereas that's just not the case. There's still the difficulty in the 2024 in that blue set and all of that, but it's a different kind of difficulty that isn't as just terrible for your skin. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I just think people are they're just stuck on if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. And
I hear that, but as a guy who spent a ton of time on the 2016 set, like, I probably did 500 plus benchmarks. Like, I mean, it's not like I didn't put my time in. I did a lot of freaking benchmarks on there. And I guess why I was excited to put up a new set is just like, I got tired of the same holds over and over again. It's like, sometimes when I'm just in busy work schedules, like, I maybe am climbing on there 2 times, 3 times a week, especially pre-board gym. I'm on the same board in my garage 3 times a week sometimes. And if you're literally grabbing like that same, like those black kind of Gaston crimps, or like the same heinous yellow hold. And then I have like a couple of projects that I'm just banging my head against the wall. I'm like, I'm sick of these holds, dude. Like, give me something new. And so I think, to me, one of the things that the 2016 could have done, well, hindsight, but whatever, they did a good job. This is 2016 we're talking about, was fill in all the T-nuts. And something I was that's what I liked about the 2019 is I felt like having more holds, there was more feet. Like, I felt like you were less likely to have projects that overlapped, that there'd be, different holds that you're using. And then I liked the wood holds. I'm good at pinching, and those wood holds, you always there's a lot of pinches, and we don't have to dive into 2019, but because we're, 2024 is the one I just put up. But something I was really happy about is I look at the 2024 set, I see it come out. I see these big blue holds. Like, they look big, dude, and they look pinchy, and they look like I can smash around on them. And whether or not that's good for me, we'll address that later. It looked like my style. But then climbing on it, I was actually impressed by a lot of the smaller crimps. I thought that they were going to end up being, things I could pinch through, but they were bad. Like, there's bad holds on there, man.
Dude, yeah. So that's some other thing I wanted to say is, like, the pinch variety is definitely way up on this, and they're not all great, but they're like great as in, like, they're not all super easy and juggy. They're hard, but they're really comfortable. They're fun as hell to smash around on. And yeah, there's like tons of bigger matchable holds, which is great. Like, if people don't think about that, that's something we've got on our board. We've got matchable holds. And what's cool about that is it allows you to, like, change direction really easily. and just because they're bigger and matchable does not necessarily mean they're easier. It's just a bigger hold. Yeah, there's tons of hybrid, like what I call the hybrid category on there, where there's depending on the direction you're coming at, you can pull it down as a crimp, and then maybe once you're like up above it, you can flip it to an undercling. There's a lot of that going on there, and yeah, and there's what also, I said it's very font-esque and all that, but there's still some sharper crimps on there. It really does have a great representation of everything. Even the pockets. The pockets are so much more comfortable than the white and black. The white and black have an edge to them and they fucking suck. I'm sorry. Like I hated using those. If anything had a mono on it from that white set, no way was I doing it. To me, it was not worth the risk. But these are just nice, rounded, comfortable. Like it's exactly the type of
But not
pocket.
necessarily jugs, right? Like not juggy pockets.
Exactly. They just have a nice taper, and I just didn't find that as much on the black and white. So yeah, I just, the other thing that I've noticed is that there are so many more possibilities for intricate foot options on the blue set specifically. And what I mean by that is a lot of those holds have this subtle taper to them that just gives you so many cool smear opportunities to create just more footwork complexity. And that's one thing that I never really got out of most of the MoonBoard sets is a lot of footwork complexity. So when you give you a lot of diversity and like those subtle tapered surfaces, there's just so much you can do with that from a footwork perspective. And I really enjoyed that. And frankly, like going through a lot of those holds, a lot of people are doing a lot of foot assignments to holds. Yeah, when I was on 2016, you rarely, I mean, I wouldn't say never, but it was rare that people would just put on like extra holds that were specifically for a foot. But on this, you see it a lot. The 2024, you see it a lot. And I will also say this is kind of cool to me because all the lights are blue, and there's no, different color for foot only. It actually made me think about the beta a little harder. So in other words, there was, I can't remember exactly the name of the boulder, but it was like a 7B plus, which is a grade that I can usually do fairly quickly. But they had like 3 holds that were right in the same area. And it took me like 4 or 5 goes to figure out the sequence between them because I didn't realize that one of those was mainly a foot. So I was trying to do all these different hand sequences around to get through that sort of feature set there. And it took me a minute to figure out. So that the way in which the feet and the lights and all of that work as well, there's almost like this additional like learning option to kind of figure it out. So I don't know. I just had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with 2024, and I'm still having a lot of fun with it.
Quick break while I tell you about today's sponsor, Organic Climbing. Organic has been making the best crash pads in climbing for decades. And I know this because some of my pads from them are over 10 years old and still going strong. Organic's pads are sustainable because they are built to last, and you can buy replacements for the buckles, straps, even the foam. So you can help the environment and save money by not always being forced to buy the latest thing. Organic is family owned and operated by Josh Helke, who is an absolute OG in the climbing scene. On top of that, Organic makes everything in the US. This is why the quality is top notch. And because it's all made in-house, you can customize what your pad looks like in almost any way imaginable. Oh, and by the way, my favorite thing about Organic pads is how comfortable they are to carry. They've always paid attention to this part of pad design, and I think it's underrated how important that is. Go check them out now at organicclimbing.com. Okay, back to the pod. I'm so glad you pointed out the taper on the holds and how that changed the footwork, because that's exactly what I noticed first was, okay, I'm on like a finishing jug and I came off of a side pull, and it used to be that when you finish something, you could just kind of like all the holds that when they became feet were basically really good, or you could heel hook them if they were, I don't know, they'd be like these big flat things. And yes, you couldn't step on the tip of it as well, but you just like heel hook it. What I found was a lot of like toeing in, like getting my toe around the side pull to, get that body tension. And it was because those things were tapered, like they weren't as blocky. And that's something that, look, people could argue like, feature, not a bug on some of the previous stuff where it's like, yeah, that's why we had less foot options and you only would get this one and it would be a jug foot and you'd have to really jump or you'd have to campus. So it's not that that's not a style, but we've talked about this before. It's like, this doesn't stop that. Like you can just not put feet on. Like it's nice to have the option to like, make it like kind of subtle and tricky. And, I think having more T-nuts allows that. But that is something I really noticed is I felt like the footwork was much different and less juggy feet.
Yeah, no, for sure. And and also the addition of the wood holds shapes I actually like. I'm not the biggest fan of the type of wood that it's made out of. I'll talk about that in a second. But like you're saying, I found that the foothold potential was rather juggy because there weren't very many tapers. There's some tapers on the black and whites, but a lot of those bigger holds on the black and whites, you can heel hook them. They're big and they're easy. They're not just big and difficult to like utilize as a foot. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think they are two different animals. I think that folks should give that 2024 a try. And I will say this too. You mentioned earlier the 2016 didn't fill out. I think that was because they didn't have the holds yet to fill it out. I mean, granted, I guess they could have sent an extra an original schoolroom set, like an extra yellow set to maybe do a few repeats or something to fill it out. But I think that was the main problem with the 2016s. I just didn't even have the hold sets to fill it out.
I want to judge 2016 times that much, like it's just things change, like what made it more expensive too, like that's for sure, where the cost comes from. One other thing that I noticed that they've updated on the 2024 compared to especially the 2016 is the middle of the board. A lot of those holds are more bi-directional. So, you can come at it from the left side of the board. Just in general, the holds in the middle are going to probably get used the most. So recognizing that and making them accessible from a left-hand side or right-hand side, it could be a pinch that you could grab on either side. I thought that was done well. And I was going to say that something else I noticed was a lot of underclings on the 2024 set. And when I first saw it, like on Instagram or whatever, I thought they were like juggy underclings. And I was like, ooh, that's not going to be great. But I wouldn't call them juggy underclings. They're kind of bad. And that was this one of the harder climbs I did last session. I don't know, maybe like 7B or something. You really had to own a left-hand undercling somewhere in kind of like the middle left quadrant down low. And I was like, whoa, like this was hard. And it was not a move that I remember doing as much on the other sets. And then I don't know. I appreciated that the underclings were not juggy. I don't know. I'd like to hear your take on like how much we should use undercling. It almost seems a touch undercling heavy, but that could be because I have an injured wrist and I don't love underclings. But yeah, what do you think about like lots of underclings on board?
Well, I mean, I think lots of everything on a board is really good. I will say that again, a lot of people you talk to when they're making spray walls, they will lean very heavily towards the down pull because I think that's having more down pulls than anything else is probably one of the things you want to do for just a training environment. That being said, underclings are massively important, especially to just replicate, emulate outdoor situations because they're all over the place. And yeah, I'm all about it. And I really like an undercling start. I dig undercling starts because a lot of times an undercling, if it's made really well, you kind of sometimes you can't use the top of it in a way, so you have to use other foot options, and it kind of ends up making it's an easy way to create a little complexity in a sequence. But yeah, I'm all about it. I really like them. Actually, one of my favorite holds on the 2024 is that center undercling. It's the one hold that I like zoomed in on immediately. It looked like a sloper at first. I didn't know what it was, but it's that center. If anybody looks at it, I think it's it's 276. I wrote it down.
Nice.
But yeah, it's really cool. because it comes out just so it's not super high profile off the wall, so you're not slamming your hand into it or anything, but it's got one of the best feet you could ask for because it's not super positive. And then the hold itself is actually super specific. I looked at it underneath in detail, and it's got like one side is almost like 3 fingers. It's like enough room for 3 fingers, and then one side's enough room for 4 fingers. And so even that in itself is super cool. They kept with the specificity of the holds. It's not a super general. It's not just one single hold underneath. So yeah.
Damn, I never thought about it in the sense of underclings are, of course, like a move that, yeah, you have to add to your lexicon, but just this concept of also that you were thinking about as a foot, which in general, we could often critique the 2016 set as being that the feet were too good because the hands lent themselves to being too good feet. And like thinking about the underclings as dual purpose, where now you have the option for smeary feet that aren't specific feet. It's like the hand doing double duty. Dude, good call out on that.
I know. That's the shit I look at. But that's the kind of stuff like when I like to set on, and we'll get into setting maybe at some point, but I really, that's the stuff I'm looking at. It's like, how can I use this in the craziest way possible to make something unique that isn't just the same old shit that you see a million times in the database. And that's the kind of stuff I look at. It's just unique feat opportunities. And there's a lot of them on the 2024.
And one of the other things about these blue holds is that they're polyurethane. I got to check my notes because I always get this wrong. Yeah, they're PU, polyurethane versus polyethylene. And so when they came in these like bubble wrap thing. Although, dude, unfortunately, like a lot of mine broke and they like smashed into each other and kind of scrape and chipped. Because that's the whole point, is that these things are supposed to, I think, have more longevity on the texture, but they are more prone to chipping. But I thought I remembered also PU holds don't retain heat. Like they're not insulators. They suck the heat from your hand. And dude, I was talking to Jared Roth about this. He owns Pusher now, and is OG in the climbing world.
Mm-hmm. Love Jared,
dude, great guy, friend of the pod. There's a podcast did with him back in the day, and he wrote me like a massive email and all those little details. So I was excited for that. But I gotta tell you, I don't notice any difference on these when it comes to how they feel, or like I don't know, they felt like normal holds to me.
That's interesting. I don't feel that at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. Maybe I'm not a connoisseur. My fingers can't tell.
I mean, it's all good. I mean, well, no, polyester resin is definitely my favorite hold material from somebody who climbed on a lot of old holds and spray walls and still do. The one thing that I find about them is that they feel more rock-like. Mostly the newer ones that still have texture. The older ones can get polished, and but even still, they do feel they're denser. They feel like rock. I do find that they hold temperature better. I find that they are just a bit cooler than polyurethane.
Did you notice it like right away on grabbing these blue holds? Am I just lame? Like I
lame.
You could say it, dude. I mean, I will say that I'm thinking in hindsight, like I didn't even think about it. And then as I was like looking at the stuff around blue holds, like, oh yeah, they're PU holds. They're and then I was like, did I notice a difference? And I'm just being honest, like it didn't jump out at me. Now maybe if I can go to it with, the knowledge that I'm lame, I should be noticing a difference. But sorry, I interrupted you to just try to cover my ass and be like, actually, maybe I did notice a difference.
No, man, actually, you know what? They were actually really cool. Now that I think of it, they're very cool to the touch. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
but props to Moon for thinking about that. I want to say that on their website or like on their marketing stuff, that I thought it was because of longevity, like something about like it, not longevity in a sense of like it chips, but something about like it doesn't get as polished. Do you know anything about that?
It still gets polished. I mean, the proof is in every old like spray wall hold that you can find. They're all polished as shit, and those things, most of those are polyester resin, so they still do. All of these holds, regardless of polyester or polyurethane, have a life cycle to them, or like a lifespan situation where they're always going to feel great at first. And then there's this taper where they sit in a sweet spot texture for a certain amount of time. So just go back to polyester. Polyester, I think that taper off from brand new to old may go a little longer, but eventually it still is going to polish. Now, with polyurethane, it all really depends on the mixture and who makes the mixture. Though that will differ from company to company based on their mixture, about like how long that sweet spot lasts and what they feel like within that sweet spot. That's something we had to figure out when it came to the polyester we ended up using on the TB2. But it's a lot to think about. But I will say that it was really interesting because when we were prototyping the TB2, we were using a different polyurethane mixture than what we ended up with for the final production. And that was because, I'm not going to name any names or say who it was or where it's from and all that shit, but I will just say that the prototype plastic that we used was of a polyurethane that was great when it came out of the box, but very quickly like dropped off and got super polished. And honestly, that's why a lot of the classics on the mirror layout specifically, people are like, oh, these are soft. It's because we were making those with very polished plastic. It was worse than the wood as far as the texture goes. And so we were, a lot of those beefy pinches, they were like fucking near impossible at a certain point. If you're thinking like, oh, the mirror's soft and stuff like that, that's part of the reason. Is a lot of those classics and those early on classics that used the polyurethane mainly, it was because they polished super quickly and we were grading them based on the fact that they were polished. But then we swapped to another one. The lifespan is a lot longer. And so, yeah, but anyway, that's a crash course in
I love it.
What I know of PE and all that. So
you make me want to reach out to some hold pourer and do a pod with. That's real geeky, but learning how the holds work. Like
dude,
deeply.
I geek out on that shit. But also I will say, people are probably like, well, why didn't you use polyester if you love it so much? Logistically, it did not make a lot of sense. So as you probably know, by putting them on the wall, polyester is way heavier than polyurethane. Yeah. So when it comes to shipping huge hold sets all over the world, that's something you got to think about, is the weight and the expense of doing that. And then also polyester is unfortunately super fragile. So we were just setting ourselves up for a huge headache by shipping tons of these holds all over the world. Say they get there and they're chipped, and then you're dealing with a massive warranty issue deal with everybody that, it was just a better choice to go with polyurethane in the end for us.
Yeah.
So
it's always pros and cons.
Exactly.
And I told you, they did a good job of, I was going to say they did a good job packaging it, but honestly, it broke apart, and my holds do not look brand new despite being brand new, but I swear they feel great. I'm totally not lying. Yeah. I totally recognize it, but
there's pros and cons for sure. There's pros and cons each. It just kind of, it depends on a lot of things. So,
well, on that note, I was saying that I like the wood holds and I liked how they felt, and you were like, no, dude, those wood holds don't feel great. And the TB2 has wood holds, and honestly, I think that's most of the extent of time I've spent on wood holds. Is, for me, it was the 2019 set with the MoonBoard, and then it's the TB2 set with the wood holds that are on there. And like whenever I encounter wood holds in the wild, like on home spray walls or whatever in the gym, like honestly, they're just janky, like homemade stuff, and like don't feel like they're fair. Beastmaker holds, I don't get to encounter those as much, being in the US, we just don't see them as much, but they seem, I don't know, I haven't climbed enough on them to like opine on them specifically. So let's keep it to the Moon wood holds and the Tension wood holds, and they're very different. But why do they feel so different?
I love the word opine, by the way. And I got to use that more.
Used it too many times. I'm sorry. Get too much coffee in me. Maybe I've been drinking too. Yeah, who knows?
Opine. Cool. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, okay. this is totally opinion. And I feel like I have to preface that now because every time I say some shit and then you snip it in a clip and put it on Instagram, everybody's like, oh, just look, like everybody's
welcome to the media. Yeah, that's
shut the fuck up. Everybody's got an opinion. Just leave me alone. Okay. So this is just my opinion. So I'm not the biggest fan of the MoonBoard wooden holds. I like the shape. Like I said, the shapes are fine, but I personally don't care for plywood. They're made of plywood. That's just my take though. I can see the opposite opinion, so I'll talk about both of them. So the MoonBoard holds are birch plywood. If you look at them, you can see the layering like you would see in layered plywood. Plywood is made of layered sheets of a particular type of wood, in this case birch, and they're held together by a specific type of glue depending on what it's going to be. Okay, so that the reason they are the way they are is that you can feel the ridges on the wood holds of the MoonBoard. And personally, when I gravitate towards wooden holds, I don't really care to feel that texture of the layers of wood. Like when I go to climb on a wooden hold, I want to feel like an even sort of very low texture surface. That is what is usually synonymous with a lot of, let's say, Beastmaker, hardwood. It's not just a TV2. It's just like in any of these like high-end wood hold makers, they're usually not plywood, and they usually you don't feel any ridges on the surface that you grab. So that's just me. Now, the other flip side of it, let's say you're in a super warm environment, those ridges can be nice to give you a little bit of extra purchase on those holds. Especially what I found, a lot of those wooden moon holds are rather rounded. They're kind of like, they're not nuggets. Nuggets are more sharp. They're more like pebbles. They're kind of, a lot of the small ones are just these really, really rounded pinches. So I could see I could see those ridges being super helpful in some situations. It's just my personal preference. I don't really care for that wood type, but it's fine. They're not, no shade to them. I that's just my personal opinion.
It's interesting because I would say that I like those ridges. By the way, I was really hoping that the wood holds were going to be made out of pine to, really tie it into.
Oh, yeah, the pine.
That would be really good. I was really hoping. Thinking about it there. But it is interesting because I liked that there was ridges because it was like texture, but I guess that does kind of make me think, well, why aren't they just plastic holds with texture? Like, what's the point of doing wood? I guess in general, you think of wood as being something that's more skin friendly, as well as because of the lack of texture that adds a element on its own. Like, I mean, that's just that it's different. But I don't know, there's just something about getting on those, they're often pinches and they have those ridges. I just feel like I can really dig. Basically, I'm good at them, Michael. I'm good at those wood holds, and I like being good at stuff. That's what it really comes down to.
I mean, that's fair. Hey, we all do, man. I totally get it. But no, I do think that they definitely could serve a purpose, and no shade to them. I mean, and frankly, we have a hangboard, our like more advanced hangboard. We put like it's got a 45 and 35 sloper on top, and we actually etch like a macro texture on those for that reason.
Oh, really?
Because we're like, if you're going to try to train on slopers, with varying temperature swings and stuff like that, and wood being wood is a naturally slick texture, if you're going to try to systematically train on slopers, you need some little something to help you do that, whether it's in the winter or the summer. And so we etch these very, very small macro texture across the sloper so that it gives you that little extra thing. So again, I could see the purpose to it. And also I will say on the MoonBoard, like they still feel like wood holds. I think like as far as using them as feet, they're still slick as shit. They're still really hard to use. I mean, I can't remember the name. I was projecting a 2024 boulder that one of the last moves, it made you like really rock over one of the tiny rounded wooden holds. And dude, I could not do that move. I kept falling off the damn thing because I was like too nervous to purchase on it. It wasn't that it was slipping off every time, but it definitely would if you put too much weight. So it really still operates like any other wooden hold. It's just again, personal preference. That's not the wood type that I usually like when I'm climbing on wood. But that, again, I could see both sides of it.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. It's cool to hear a little bit about the behind the scenes, because I was like, yeah, I don't understand why it feels like there's texture on the MoonBoard wooden holds when, especially when I climb on ones in the, like that people have made at their house, like they are often unbelievably slick and then also really sharp. Like, just a PSA to people out there who are making their own wood holds, like, no one likes them to be just sharp. Like, I like the rounded feel that, I don't know, man, you feel like you're grabbing a freaking splinter. Like, not cool. Do not do that.
I think a lot of that has to do with, it's a lot easier to make sharper ones than it is like very nice rounded ones. There's depending on how you're doing it, let's say even a CNC machine, like there's certain custom tooling that you need to have to really get them to be comfortable like that, or comfortized like that. It's much easier to just kind of cut something in like very sharp angles. So I that's probably why. But
okay,
anyway,
I just made that PSA and I just realized there was another PSA I wanted to do, and that's boards in general. Wash your board holds or this. Okay, my only caveat to this is maybe not on spray walls that are just, there's something to be said for just leaving a spray wall up forever, like going to Cats and it's just slick as shit and it's iconic because of that. But yeah. I was talking to Max Zolotukin and he was saying how, yeah, we pulled down, I think it was the Kilter board, and we washed the holds and put them back on. I was like, why did you do that? And he was like, because the holds got used, they needed to be cleaned. I was like, yes, dude, like normalize that in gyms. Do whatever you need to do to clean them on a normal rotation. Like they get used. And I want to like put that out into the world that all you head setters, which I know you're listening, is get management to allow you to bring into the rotation, wash the holds. I mean, although I will say be gentle, because we all know that, well, maybe not we all know, but for people who don't know, washing holds actually is maybe leads to the most wear and tear on a hold. So be gentle to it, but clean them, gyms. Please clean your holds.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, pressure washing them for sure. It definitely will degrade holds very quickly. And that's just but it's tough because you've got a lot of them and you got to figure out a way to do it efficiently and do it well. So I totally can see why. But yeah, as far as boards are concerned, I think that most gyms could really up how often they are doing it. When I talk to a lot of head setters, they do clean the holds, but it's just the cadence in which they do so is not enough for, how often they're getting used and the traffic that they're getting. And that's a big difference between any home spray wall and facility walls. Like the amount of traffic these things are getting is just, 100 times what you're going to have at the house. So the other thing is these things are huge investments. Like they're massive investments. Like said and done, after you get the wall and all of that stuff, you're talking $30,000-$50,000. These are huge investments. And if you see shit tons of people using them all the time, like you got to take care of them.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the things we try to push, because our board has wood on it, and wood, you got to take care of it. And it also is not the same. You can't just take those holds off and pressure wash them like you can polyurethane. Wood is a different material. It's a fragile material. It's, you definitely have to treat it a little differently than you do polyurethane. So anyway, all that is to say is take the time, clean the boards. I usually, for the TB2, I usually suggest, like, look, if you can do it twice a quarter, that's probably best. At the minimum once a quarter, depending on how much traffic they're getting. But it's part of the experience. That's
a normal rotation, 6 weeks. That's what we used to. 6 to 8 weeks was usually when you would turn, a boulder, or I feel like we try to turn a gym in 8 weeks or so.
Well, it's also it's a pain in the ass for a standardized board too. It's not quite the same. You've got to line up all the directions again and all of that. So it's a little more of a pain in the ass. The tension board for sure. I think there's a lot of not to keep pulling back the extension board, but it's just a different board that you have to take care of differently, mainly because everything is screw on and it's not a bolt. So you're not going to take everything off the wall, because you'll end up Swiss cheese in the wall that it's on, and then they won't go in. And so you actually have to, for the TB2, you have to clean it on the wall. And we have a whole special cleaning protocol that's, that we push for that. But yeah, I think more or less it's really to do with it. It's kind of a big pain in the ass, but man, it's just part of it. It's part of the service.
Okay. Ravioli Biceps is famous for his hashtag of brush thy board. Someone please come up with a hashtag for us that's like wash thy wash thy boards. Just something to encourage, something to encourage the gyms to take what we do seriously and to clean them off, because they get gross. And I remember when I would set, so most of my setting was done at this gym. It was Plant Granite at the time in San Francisco, and now it's Movement in San Francisco. We got a lot of traffic, man. We got a lot of traffic. I hated washing holds because it's cold and loud and not fun. Although I will say there is a weird satisfaction of taking the pressure washer and just, like getting that boot rubber off. But dude, those like popular V0s to V2s that would just get a lot of love from the day passers. And we would find, it's terrible, you'd see like blood on them. You'd be like, why is there blood on this hold, dude? Like, what happened to this hold? And so, yeah, clean your holds. It's wash thy gym, wash thy board. I don't know. Well,
I'll just say this to setters. Like, just imagine having a single wall that's like a 12-foot width in your gym, where you set that up and you leave it for a year. It's no different. Like, just a single section. If let's just say that's all you had, and you left it there for a year. Like, can you imagine what that would look like? Well, that's what's happening on the boards, same thing. So
my local gym at the block, they're going to take down the holds and clean them. And then when they put it back up for the TB2, they're going to make it the spray layout. They're going to change from mirror to spray. But you could do that with MoonBoards too, where you take down the holds. If you just, like, I don't think I know people get sucked into whatever set they're on, but honestly, if they knew it was going to come back in 6 weeks, like, why don't we see, just like we will strip boulders on a section of wall, put up new boulders every 6 weeks or whatever. Like, imagine if it was the 2016 set, and then 6 weeks later, it's the 2019 set. And then 6 weeks later, maybe it's the 2016 set again, or maybe it's the 2024. Like, and then they're washed, they're fresh, they're new. Like, just let's put a little more effort into it since it gets so much love.
Yeah. And again, I think that it's just the perceived fact that it's a pain in the ass in their mind. Like, it's a pain in the ass to get all the directions right and do all of this stuff. But I almost want to say my argument to that is, look, if you've got a setting team, I understand that you do rotations at specific times and all of this stuff. If you just had, 4 to 6 people on your setting team designated to only doing that in a day, it wouldn't take any longer than doing a new round of boulders.
No way.
So yeah, I agree.
Well, I don't know about, yeah. Okay. We'll get off this topic, but that's their job. Like, I don't care if they're not psyched out. Like, we're the climbers. I used to have to I remember we did safety checks where we checked every freaking quick draw for wear in the gym. It's like, how's the dog bones looking? Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's maybe those days aren't the most fun, but climbers, we're climbing. Okay. Enough PSAs and yelling at, shaking our fists at people. Okay. Oh, you got, wait, do you have more thing to yell about? Go ahead.
I didn't want to move off the 2024 thing because there was one more thing I wanted to say, because everybody's like 2016, 2019, 2020. Okay. This is what I think, because I've thought about this. The best MoonBoard setup has not been realized yet. Okay. So just hear me out. There's 10 hold sets now in the MoonBoard catalog. You've got 198 bolt holds for the 12/8 setup. So, well, it's 188 minus the 10 that have to go on the kicker feet. So, my opinion, listen up, Moon. Look, 2027. Here you go. Best MoonBoard setup. You take the 40 holds from the original schoolroom set, combine them with the 50 holds of the hold set A. So, I'm kind of in between the white and black ones, but I think overall I would pick the white ones. I've thought about this. I think it could go either way. So, the original schoolroom set, hold set A, the white ones, two of the blue sets, because right now the blue set is comprised of three individual sets. So you take two of those sets, so that's 80 total. And then you add one of the wood sets for like a texture diversity. Now you're going to have like 6 left over or something, but you can figure out, they can figure out which ones to kind of pluck out of that setup. But that is the one, because that's going to give you the best hold sets and is also going to give you the most diverse representation of numerous rock types, in my opinion. You'll have wood, you'll have polyurethane, and you'll have polyester. That's it.
You got font, you got Waco, you got Chronico, you've got wood. I don't know where wood harkens from. our tree climbing days when we were young.
Yeah. Telling you, Moon, there it is.
Well, there's something to be said for just this catalog that they're building, right? Like I love this idea that you put out there. I think the Instagram reel did well. Also, just this idea of, we were talking about boards, like they represent like different areas, and we can liken them to actual physical rock types or areas, but just that concept that they all have their own unique style, texture, pinch, crimp, pocket, whatever it is. And then that's kind of the magic of a board, is getting to mix and match those. I like it, dude. I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah, it's funny you're saying that. And I was thinking about not talking about this, but I kind of want to say it. Can I say it? Get off
your chest, dude. Just get off your chest.
Okay. So I don't know if you remember when they first posted that board, the 2024 setup, on Instagram. Like, not to bring up any past bullshit, because it was like over a year ago or whatever, but I was just reminded of it when I was climbing on it the other day. But do you remember how much of a public execution and how unbelievably harsh a large portion of the comments were upon just the first viewing of this thing? Like, I just felt so bad for Ben and his team during that just fucking public execution of armchair assholes who just had no fucking clue what they were talking about. Like, people were bitching so hard about the color, first of all. It's like, so what are you going to go to your favorite gym climb and bitch that they didn't do it in your favorite color? Like, I could not believe how many people were like, blue, ooh. Like it's just a color. Like, there's yellow ones, there's black ones, there's white ones, and now there's blue ones. Like, what the hell is wrong with blue? They were like complaining about the size. They were like the perceived difficulty of the holds, talking about, oh, it's just a kilter board now. Oh, blah, blah, blah. No one asked for bigger holds. The marketing department always prevails and shit. Like, they were just so fucking mean. And I just couldn't, I can believe it, because, believe it or not, I've learned a lot about online culture and all of that, being in the position that I'm in. But they were just all so wrong. They were just so wrong, because it is very much still a MoonBoard. And frankly, I think that it is just one of the best sets and the best jobs they've done. And it was just such a solid move for them to make this hold set. And I just had to say something, because I was reminded of that. I just could not believe how filleted they were getting. I just felt so bad, and just how fucking wrong everyone was.
I know. I'm glad you called it out, dude. You gotta get off your chest. You've been drinking. You got things to say.
Tell me, man. I'm not. Fun as alcoholic.
I mean, I think the worst part of all that is that they hadn't climbed on it yet, dude.
Yeah.
They hadn't fucking climbed on it.
But even the color thing, they were so, and I think from what I was gathering, I think people were just like pissed because they thought that it was like that the polyester holds were like multiple hold sets. And I think they were pissed because they liked seeing different hold sets represented in different colors or something like that. But they were all the same hold set.
Yeah.
Like they were all the same family of holds. Then it just like, bro, get off the blue thing. Are you kidding?
Okay, I'm going to get on the blue thing. I will say that I think the blue, my wife is a designer and likes this kind of stuff, like colors. And she's like,
color psychology.
Yeah, she's like, oh, like the colors look good on the 2016 set. She was just like, it's like a good look. And the blue felt like a departure. But then my argument is like, if you look, you want to very quickly be able to know exactly what it is. Like you want it to stand out. And I thought the 2019 with its wood holds looks a lot different than the 2016. I mean, you just know, like within, you don't even have to think about it. And so the blue at first, I was like, like, although blue and yellow kind of look cool. Like I have the MoonBoard panels, so it's like yellow and blue, and those look kind of cool together. And right away, you're like 2024. Like, so yeah. So I don't know. I can push back on it, but honestly, like, who gives a shit too? Like,
who gives a shit? Nobody's bitching when they go to the gym that, oh man, I love that climb, but man, I wish it was green. They really missed their mark. Could have put a complaint in the box. Like,
dude,
I don't know, man.
This is like, I'm on like way out there, and I'll have to see if we have to bleep this out. But I was in the Discord this morning, and there is like a massive discussion on hold color, and they're all setters. A lot of them are setters, and they're like, I hate orange holds, or, you have to use these like specific, really bold colors to stick out. And some of their thinking is around color blindness and making sure that you put them next to each other. But there is a deep dive in that Discord right now about appropriate hold color choice. So
sure, like colorblind accessibility, there's something to be said for that and figuring that out. But when it comes to boards, like most of these board apps have an accessibility feature built in where it's not about the color, it's about anyway. I just think it's fucking ridiculous. And I just had to say something because I felt so bad for them in the moment when that first came out. And I just like, people have no idea what goes into creating these things. And then to just publicly fillet them without fucking even touching them. Come on. Like I'm looking at it from a very different perspective with people on the internet and just the way that our culture just fucking throws it in the fire if it's just any bit off base from something that they expect or want. They are just so quick to just.
Well, this isn't even devil's advocate, but actually what I'll say is that what strikes me as maybe being like a little nuance here is that I think what we're seeing is just how much there was love for the 2016 set, just like they are so invested in it that literally there was no possible outcome of what Moon could do that they weren't going to be filleted publicly because of such love for that original thing. And so, I'm trying to think of like some movie series where maybe, people love the, Superman 1 and then Superman 2 like could never live up to Superman 1, even if it was better. I don't even know if there's multiple Superman movies. That was what came to mind. Sure. Maybe there's an element of that, just like it shows the love for the initial set. And so there was nothing they could do that wouldn't ruffle feathers.
No, I mean, totally. I just think that people are just so quick to judge. And when they're just sitting on their couch, just feeling just cozy and just in the mood to bitch on the internet, it's just, people are just so ruthless. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, I didn't mean to tangent on that, but I just remembered how just unbelievably crazy that was to me. How, because they've been around, they're the pioneers in this thing, and for people to just so quickly judge, it just was kind of eye-opening. But
I hear you. We've both been on the sharp end of that stick. Which I'll say, this is one of the reasons why I don't really read or do comments on social media. But what I do respond to is when people take the time to message me directly or come to me one-to-one, because people don't usually say really terrible stuff when they're talking to you. It's like, hey guys, like, I don't think blue was a good choice for you because of X, Y, and Z. Still looking forward to this set. But just so you know, like, this caused whatever problem with us. And so it might be something you want, just some feedback versus like, you guys suck. So that would just be my tip to people. If you actually do have constructive feedback, I'd say everyone's willing to take it almost always when there's good thinking behind it versus just, you suck, I hate you. Yeah, that never goes
constructive is the key thing. Like I also have gone back and forth with things and comments and mean things and all of that. Like I usually don't try to engage when people are just being outright assholes. But if someone is voicing an opinion and they seem at least somewhat willing to have a constructive conversation, I am usually willing to engage at least to a point of saying, not in a bad way or not in an argumentative way, but just in a way to say like, yo, like this is kind of where we're coming from here. And, you know, it may not be your thing, but this is at least now you know why we've done this. And again, and also like, yeah, bonus points for people who actually just reach out in a message rather than just putting something up just to make a fucking point. Sorry, I'm dropping the F-bomb a lot, so maybe don't. But you can tell I'm getting riled up. We can have a whole pod on my whole philosophy of armchair asshole culture. But
yeah, okay, no more PSAs. We've yelled at people yelling. We've yelled about people yelling. We want people to brush or wash their boards. Okay, somehow actually this is a good segue into the last topic I had in the docket today, which is that, Michael, I want to talk about this idea of what makes a board climb good, a board climb, not just a climb, although of course that will somehow segue into climbing in general. But the reason why I bring it up is that one of our listeners reached out to me. One of our listeners being my buddy Nick Wedge, who is a prolific setter on the MoonBoard, as well as an administrator. So he gets to be part of that process. That I don't really know the behind the scenes on this, so I don't want to say too much because I really don't know. But I know that he's part of the team or has the ability to benchmark a climb. And he just brought up this idea about what makes a board climb good, because he says that there's a lot of back and forth there when they talk about benchmarking things, where it's not necessarily just, is this a benchmark V5? Like, what does that mean? Is it that it's hard for V5? Is it exactly what we need to consider as V5? Is it also good? Is good part of the factors that we should bring into if a climb should be, you know, a benchmark or a classic on the TB2? And yeah, just, the MoonBoard was kind of as far as I can tell, the originator of this idea of benchmark, which are something like curated climbs. And so, yeah, there's a couple of angles that we could go at this with. But when I say, like, what does good mean for a board climb? Like, what does that bring to mind for you?
Josh, you sent me over this topic in the pre-notes, and I hate to tell you, but I've got to take a bit of a circle around to get to the answer you want. So you're going to have to bear with me because I thought about it. The more I thought about it, the more I'm like unpacking all this other shit to lead to the answer I think I want to give you. So you said on a board, but like what makes a good climb period? So indoor and outdoor, right? This is a big conversation. So if you think about outside, there are staple qualities to classic good climbs, right? There's flat landings, there's good rock quality, hands and feet being in ideal places to kind of, lend to a nice flow of movement, solid height, all that stuff. That said, there's also a ton of iconic lines that aren't the most comfortable, i.e. the Resident Evil start crimps. Right? They're sharp as hell. Slash face. Iconic. The crux sequence on that is so freaking uncomfortable. The swarm. Holds are sharp as shit, and they tend to fillet anybody that has to project it. Right? But they're still classic. They're still iconic. Okay. The thing is, though, is the average climber's opinion of what good is has changed over time and has gotten a bit more critical over time. And what I mean is, like, more and more people are being introduced to climbing via modern commercial facilities. And those modern commercial facilities lean towards ergonomics. And the ergonomics in route setting, I think, has affected people's perception of what good climbs should be or should feel like. Okay, so that's what I'm going to preface all that. So because of that, what's good on boards has really become very subjective, because some boards were made for training and other boards were made for a fun, comfortable experience, right? So now take the MoonBoard. We spoke about it last time, how it makes you do things that you really don't want to do. And that's because the board is a brainchild of an old school bouldering and sport pioneer, okay, who likely realized that being uncomfortable was ultimately better preparation for tackling top end outdoor projects, right? Because I've said, many times, like when you're climbing outside, the rocks outside don't give a shit about anything, about comfort or anything. They're not made for you. And getting to the upper end climber place, you'll ultimately have to face that realization and train for that to get better if that's what you are pursuing. Okay. So all that said, a good climb on the MoonBoard in the eyes of the people who made it probably doesn't have to be the most comfortable thing on the planet. Because we're talking mostly about a MoonBoard. So I kind of want to center it around the MoonBoard and the benchmark thing. Because I think the benchmark thing is just it's been a big question to a lot of people, because there's things that are benchmarks that people don't think are that good. But I think a lot of that has to do with people's perception of good and where that came from. So my guess as to why benchmarks are the way that they are is they're a good representation of a grade. I think that's what the most common thing I've heard about it. But sometimes something that feels not so comfortable for you is still teaching you something. It's still teaching you to manage an uncomfortable situation, which is inherently a huge part of pushing through in upper end outdoor climbing. So all I say, that opinion of a good climb is probably not quite the same as those who love climbing on a super comfortable, super ergonomic board, right? And people who are used to getting served these really good things that are in modern facilities that are just all 5-star lines that are the most comfortable things you've ever seen. So anyway, people are going to judge something based on their experiences, what I'm getting at. And so more and more of those experiences are had in these indoor facilities. And so, yeah, I think that's why people's perception of some of these big benchmarks might be pretty critical. So I'm not really answering your questions of what I think is a solid good, what makes a good climb, but I'm trying to more so unpack like why there's so many different opinions of this, especially when it's applied to the board scenario. It's because people are judging based on what they know, and more people know the gym scene more than they do the outside scene. But these boards, again, are representative of the people that made them. And so the MoonBoard, very much like what Ben Moon was training on back in the day. And because he probably realized, hey, that's what's going to get me better, is being uncomfortable and getting through that and learning that. So that's kind of that's a huge long-winded answer, but I just don't, a good climb to somebody in a specific board may not be exactly the same from board to board to board. Yeah. So I think it's all baked into what the board is, what it's trying to be, what its aim is, and what the developers of that board meant for it to be, and what they aimed for the user to sort of get out of it.
No, it's great.
That's my spiel.
It's an impossible question. I mean, if you told me that benchmarks were just supposed to be appropriate for the grade, that doesn't exactly seem correct, or any climb. Like, no one actually cares. Like, it's nice to say this is benchmark V4, and we can say, like, usually when something's, benchmark for the grade, or often also like, a test piece of a grade, it doesn't necessarily mean it's definitely like V4. We just know it's not any easier than V4. Like sometimes, we can just kind of say like confidently, okay, we know it's this difficulty. But this idea of good it's a fun thing to pick apart in terms of the board. And I do agree that you have to look at the context and think a little bit outside both the box of the board, but even outdoors. And it's like, why do things become famous, or why do people drawn to it? And I remember someone saying like, oh, it's consistent. It's like each move is about the same difficulty. And that can be something that is very attractive in a specific boulder. Maybe it's a Ironman Traverse or something like that. But then I can also think of climbs that are famous because they're not consistent at all. And they just have this one interesting move. Maybe, have you ever done Free Willy out at, I guess there's a way to crimp through it, but in general, it's kind of like a one move dyno. And then to take into the awkward realm, I already have done this on the pod so many times, but I can never remember the name. I think it's Gentleman's Project that is in Joe's Valley with that Gasto cling. And I always use that as the example because it looks so awkward. I've never tried it because it's a very injurious move.
I've done it. I think it's one of the best of the great out there. Yeah.
So yeah, really cool. But because it's like a strange movement, and oftentimes when I think about my progression through climbing, I don't know what you think, but I've also had these kind of moments where I had to do something that didn't feel nice. Like I had to cut my feet. Even though maybe you're not supposed to cut your feet, like you do all your V8s or something. I'm just making up a grid and you're just very dialed in, really high levels of body tension. And then you get to like a V9 and it feels awkward. Like you're like, these feet aren't right. And I felt like I would always go through these little progressions where I felt really dialed in. And then I had to do something that was quote unquote awkward and didn't feel good. I kind of had to just gur through it. And then you get better. And oftentimes you can go back and those awkward moves no longer feel awkward. And so there's something there about being pushed outside your comfort zone and learning how to just try super hard. And so I see benchmarks like that. There's like, I think of, do you know that one Jer Bear Snare? I think it's called Jer Bear Snare.
I don't know that I know that one. I don't remember a lot of the names from the MoonBoard back in the day, but
okay. 2016.
Okay.
Easy kind of starter, like a decent hold. Hopefully it's Jer Bear Snare. I think it's like V10 or 11 on the 2016. Big move to a knob, you know, that like yellow knob. I mean, it literally looks like a mini door handle.
Yeah, it's just a little mini door handle, yeah.
And then you go straight up from that, like the holds are in a line. Like you have a start hold, big reach to a one-handed hold that maybe you can kind of handcuff yourself on or wrap, and then pull through to the finish. And it's literally just like almost like a one-arm pull. Awkward, man. Like really weird. And you have to just own that hold. But that's what it's testing. Like, can you own this hold? And so I don't know what goes on behind the scenes at benchmarks, but I like that idea of something like Bunny being the same grade as Jer Bear Snare or relatively close. And it's like this consistent boulder where like every move kind of builds. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum. And so when I think of good, I almost just think of like there being some kind of point of view behind it. Whatever that point of view is, something.
Yeah, it's always a bit of subjectivity. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like there's the people who have the ability to benchmark and or classic or whatever. It's not like there's this checklist that they're sitting there like, okay, does it do this? Does it do this? Like there's different versions of classic or benchmark. There's a spectrum to what that looks like. And again, that just depends on what that person thinks at that time. Granted, there are like kind of, at least with classics, like we try to stick to a lot of similar things, but yeah, there's just it's got opinion associated with it, and we're not all the same people too. So a feeling of something might feel different to somebody else. And so honestly, I think that the classic and benchmark thing has just frankly gotten out of hand. Like I'm kind of out of that game. Like I don't just climb benchmarks. I don't just climb classics because again, it takes someone designating those things and going through all those things. And it's just humanly impossible for everyone to do every boulder that's being put in those things. And so there's a lot of really good things that aren't quote unquote classic or quote unquote benchmark. Like I understand the gamification part, and I understand that like people go to that thing as like this source of truth and this, but there's just, you have to understand that there's just, it's humanly impossible for the amount of people who are designating these things to actually keep up with how many are being put in the database and to actually designate every single one of them. So I mean, obviously I'm kind of on the other side where I'm actually trying to look for things that are not designated classics to add more to them. But I don't know, man. It's so subjective that it's like, I don't think people should be listening to any one person or just worried about it that much. Like go out and look at the other things that are in the database. Like there's a lot of really good things. There's a lot of shitty things too, but
I hear you, but I totally am the opposite. You're on this side. I'm like, all I climb is classics.
We're on different sides of it too. Like
well, good, because if we were on the same side, then
this would be boring.
Yeah, I don't know. I like this completionism. So me and Ravioli Biceps talked about this, and I just like this idea of there being, even though the benchmarks or classics are ever expanding, there's always just this idea of like trying to do them all and being forced to do something like Jerbear Snare, which just like, this is crazy. But then like, well, I have to do it. So I know that there's good climbs out there that are not classic or benchmarked, but for me and probably for most, like there's enough, there's, 550 2016 benchmarks. I don't know. I think there's like something similar on the TB2 mirror right now. It's like, that's a lot. And I like being forced into that headspace where I'm like, this is awkward. I don't like this. I need to stick with it until it's not awkward and figure it out.
Yeah. No, I get it. I think my point of view as far as like focusing on the things that aren't is, to me, it's like I'm walking up on a new boulder field where not a lot of people have ever been. And I'm like, what's here? What's in here? Because there's nobody else is looking at these boulders. Like, and there's some good ones in there. It almost feels like this place that you found that nobody else knows about because they're over in Classic Land. Everybody's obsessed with Classic Land over here. But I've got, all of these things that aren't classic. There's just some mega good ones. And a lot of times they become classic.
Just go hike another 5 minutes, guys. Yeah, you find a whole new zone.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we close out on that idea of good, I'd like to just rephrase it and say, like, what makes a boulder bad? Like, what is the thing? And I'll lead while I let you stew on that for a moment. Here's like a pet peeve of mine is, let's say you have two handholds, and let's say they're somewhat close to each other. Do not make me let go of the good handled. So if let's say you put a jug left hand and not too far beneath it, you have a bad right hand. And then let's say I'm having to go out left. And basically the sequence is forcing me to let go of the good hold and hold on to the bad hold. I really hate that because everything in my body is saying like, own the good hold on to the good hold, cross off of the good hold. And there's nuance here because I can think of like, I really love boulders sometimes that do this where let's say you're on like a jug undercling, you reach way up to like a bad crimp and then you have to like pogo or launch to like another hold. And so then you are being forced to go off of the bad hold, but you're super outstretched and all low it out. And that's kind of the whole point. But when you have two holds that are nearby each other, make sure that the one that you're moving off of is the good one. I don't know, that to me, bad boulder, bad set.
I mean, that's kind of setting 101, I think. Like, if you look at any good set in a gym, most likely, if there's a double start hold, it will persuade you, based on the size of the hold, which one to lead with. And that's how they do it, is they'll usually make one worse and they'll make one better. And it persuades you to move with the right hold. So yeah, that is bad setting. That's kind of setting 101. Some of the things I don't really like are grovelly situations. And what I mean by that is like, if you force like a crazy, very uncomfortable match where you're like isolating fingers to make it work when there's just 20 fucking holds around that hold that would make the quality of that move better, but you choose to make someone grovel through to match something, that's usually a bad one. I also think that this isn't necessarily bad. I think this is just kind of people not wanting to take their time to make it just a little better, is like when you're sort of equity in a move. Now, outside, sometimes very binary. You have 1 foot, one hold to grab it. Sometimes you just don't have extra options. But on board, particularly ones that do have extra feet and stuff like that, like I think it's cool to, and you'll see this on indoor climbs, right, where there will be multiple foot options, but making sure the experience is sort of equal for different sizes. Now, I'm not saying it has to be if you're 5 foot and it has to be the same experience as if you're 6 foot. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like taking the time to give a few more options so that, and if you think about it a little longer and you have enough options to do so, you can spend a little time to give everyone a foot option without making the higher foot just ownable by the taller people. You know what I mean? So that, I think that to me is like something that sets like a decent boulder apart from a great boulder. I don't know. I think it's in a nutshell, if you've got a lot of options to use it bugs me when people just don't take the time to like do that. When they're just like, this is going to be set for me. This is exactly what I want. I don't give a shit how anybody else's experience is. That's kind of the thing for me. But I don't know. I also am one that really enjoys really taking time to set the quality things. I think that was one of the points you actually put on the thing, which we can maybe jump into a little bit, but just setting on boards and I really, really, really love setting on boards. That's another poll I put out. I asked people like, do you like traditional setting where you can manually do it, or do you like setting on a board where everything's fixed? And I think that was probably very skewed because I don't think the majority of people get near as much opportunity to set in a traditional way in a facility as they do on a board. But yeah, man, I really enjoy setting on a board. For one, I think I'm just a lot better at it than the traditional thing. I stopped doing that a long time ago, so I'm not as good. But to me, it's almost when you're setting on a board, it's like finding a line rather than totally making it yourself. It almost feels a bit like developing boulders outside to me. When you've got all these things locked in position and you have to make something cool and creative out of it. And that's why I like to just take my time with it, because I like to make things that are as unique as possible with the things that are locked into place. It's just kind of a different kind of creativity to me. But
I just like the idea of like uncovering a line versus creating a line that, you know, it was there all along and you just kind of showed it versus when you set commercially, you have to actually put holds up. And my hunch is that just those constraints of, just having it in front of you versus like almost an infinite amount of T-nuts and options often breeds really cool creativity. And maybe if you're an unbelievably experienced setter, then you can deal with a little less constraints. But even in commercial setting, it was often nice to just have someone come along, put up some big volumes, and then you also kind of had a tag or a path that you had to go and a grade. And you look at the hold room and you think, okay, I have to do yellow here, and these are the yellow holds available. And so just narrowing down those constraints is helpful. Again, maybe that's not how World Cup setters probably do it, but they're very experienced. And I do enjoy setting on boards too. And I just like that idea of taking the time to get outside of your own head and how you climb and recognize that there could be different ways to do the move. But that's hard to do, Michael. Like that shows a understanding of movement that a lot of people, have to acquire through years that you've done,
That's very true. Yeah. But I also think it's taking your time. Like in these apps, you can, I'm not actually certain on the MoonBoard, but like you can draft a boulder. That's what I'll do a lot of times, where I'll sit with like multiple sessions, then play with this thing until I publish it. Like I don't just like set it and then publish it. I try to make sure it's like really what I want, and that, it checks all the boxes that I want checked for multiple people. But I really, really like setting on boards. I mean, as you can imagine. But I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, it's like shooting photos on digital as opposed to film. Like digital, in a sense, is like the traditional way where you've kind of got every dial imaginable to control what you're doing with that movement, as opposed to like board setting is more like film, where you have like far less control because you can't move anything. And you have to just kind of work with what you've got. It's just much more of a stripped down deal with what you have and make the best thing you can with it. But anyway.
Okay. We'll put a pin in that and get to it another time, because that whole idea of setting, I mean, one thing is just to start doing it. And I encourage people while they're resting to kind of, look at the board and come up with new ideas versus just doom scrolling on Instagram and writing angry comments. Because sometimes while you're climbing on it, you use a hold and you're like, I love this hold. And then it's just like, okay, what else could you do with this hold? Like, have fun.
Yeah, dude. And one thing I wanted to say is like Quinn and I are going to Squamish at the end of August. And while we're there, I hope this works out for us to do it, but we're planning to do a board setting clinic at the Progression Gym in Vancouver on their TB2. So we're going to have 2 sessions, one for a certain grade range and another for another. But that should be fun because if that ends up going well, I would love to do more of those where people can just kind of sign up and learn, because again, like, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to set traditionally. And so the board is kind of the first place where they're really having to do that. And a lot of times it shows. So I don't know, we're going to kind of test run that and see what happens. It'd be really cool to kind of go on a tour of teaching people how to set quality climbs on boards.
That's awesome. That's cool. I hope you guys shout that out on the Instagram. People can join, because that is a really good point you just made, where this is probably most people's first attempt at setting, because who the heck picks up a wrench anymore? I mean, it used to be something that actually, like, if you wanted to set, usually gym owners were like, great, and we don't even have to pay you. Like, I don't care what crap you put on the wall. And boards, whether it's your home spray wall or a gym spray wall or these standardized boards, like that is probably people's first intro to it. That's cool. And good on you guys for doing a setting board clank. I'm not sure how many have been done, so that's cool.
Yeah. We thought about calling it Ass or Gas Live, but I don't know. We'll see if that sticks. People might not know what that is and be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, that sounds weird, dude. Don't do that. Yeah.
Anyway, before we wrap, really quickly, can I do a little bit of a spotlight on some of these board accounts? Because I think it'd be a really cool way to maybe conclude, because I want to bring some spotlight to these people who spend time and effort to really curate what they're doing on their Instagram board accounts.
Please. That's awesome. I love it.
Okay,
go for it.
Okay, cool. Well, because this one was like mostly centered around MoonBoard, I grabbed a handful of my favorite MoonBoard accounts from my recent time of playing on the 2024. So the first one I want to shout out is Jesse is Board. So at Jesse_is_board. So this is Jessie Wentz. She currently lives in North Carolina. She's a really good climber.
So good.
Just really, really good. But she is primarily a MoonBoard climber. It's her main account, but she basically turned it into a board account. And I think her account is great. You guys should check it out, mainly because I think she does a ton of hard MoonBoard climbs, and I'm pretty sure she's not that tall. So I know a lot of people who approach the MoonBoard feel like they get a bit shut out if they're shorter. Granted, she is very strong, but I just think it's a really good reference for people who are not just giants climbing on that board and doing big moves. So definitely check out some of her posts. She's pretty consistent on it. Very impressive sins on there. The second batch I wanted to talk about was Steve and Dana Rader. They're a couple. They have a MoonBoard in their garage, I believe. They both shred on the MoonBoard, and they're not just climbing. They're also avid setters, which I appreciate. They're not just doing things that are in the app. They're actively adding really good climbs to the app. They are primarily posting on the 2024 setup. Both do a great job at curating their feed, so that you can kind of easily go through and find climbs. So that's one thing I really enjoy about board accounts, is when you can kind of go to the feed and kind of just scroll through and see the names of the climbs and the grades. It just helps you if you're sitting in front of a board, right? It's just another way for you to kind of get inspiration to climb cool things. You don't have to go through the app to then get to Instagram from the board screen, right? You can just kind of look at it in that way. So I think that's really, really cool. It's funny because I found myself on Dana's account more than I did on Steve's, because he's 6 foot. He's a giant. He's a bit bigger than I am. And he makes big moves look so easily that are
Seriously.
actually quite tough for me. So, and I mean, Dana's doing top end climbs too, but she has a way to tech through them a little more. So really, really, really good accounts, I'll just say overall. And also shout out to Steve, because I messaged him for some suggestions on the 2024, because that's the one they have in the garage. And he sent me a lot of really great boulder suggestions. So check out at Steve Rader 4 and at DA_Rader_boards. So those two are great. Next one is Good Condies. So this is Kyra's new board account. And I mean, of course it's going to be impressive, but she climbs on all the popular boards, but it's always impressive to see what she's smashing around on. Obviously she's super in her element. Her account is also nicely curated. She also does the thing where she uses the image to kind of add the the details of the boulder that you're going to look at. So it's really cool. So far, I've only seen one double digit show up on her account, or sorry, one single digit rather. They're all
there you go. There you go. I was like, wait.
Yeah, you were like, wait a minute. No, sorry, I said that wrong. Only one single digit show up on her account, which is pretty on brand for her. So anyway, check out Kyra's. That's at good_condies. And then the last one I will say is at 40 degree logbook. This guy, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. His name's Flo.
Oh, Wentes. I think it's Wentes. I think
there's a J in there, and I was just like threw me off. So, so Flo Wentes. That dude is unbelievably strong, and he's doing some of the hardest upper end stuff on mainly the 2024 and the 2019. 2019 was pretty cool to see because you don't see it as often. But yeah, cool to see some of the hard stuff coming from the 2019, and also just a really well curated account. But yeah, overall I just want to shout those guys out, and then also say that, like, just as someone who does look at a lot of board accounts, I really dig when folks take the extra time to put the info and the name of the grade on the cover photo, because these accounts just serve as great reference logs just to get psyched on new climbs, and it's cool when they're laid out in a way that kind of helps you look for something particular or a particular grade. So.
Dude, that was incredible. I said we make this a regular thing where we try to bring up a board account that you've been digging or I've been digging, because yeah, it's a big part of the community, like we were saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got some thoughts on all those are great accounts. Flo, what's funny about Flo is that when I was on the 2019, I don't know if I ever messaged with him, but I climbed a lot of his boulders and he set some really hard boulders. He's like, oh yeah, he's like a good 2019 MoonBoarder, just whatever, like amazing climber. And then I started seeing him pop up in the outdoor world, and he flashed a mandala. He did floating, that V16 in Japan.
Oh, this is the guy.
That's Flo. Yes,
that's Flo. That makes a lot more sense, because I'm like V12, 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 V12. I'm like, what in the hell? Who is this guy? I obviously haven't been paying attention to the MoonBoard people in a while, but yeah. Okay, that's Flo.
Well, I mean, he was clearly a great climber, but then he's kind of hit the scene the last couple of years as being a really great climber. The Raider, well, Steve, I'll just say I've messaged back and forth with Steve over the years. This is why this stuff is so fun, by the way, you guys, because you can just, I mean, you tag those people, you tag Nick Wedge and say, that was a banger boulder. He's going to repost it. He's going to message you. Ravioli Bites. All these people are just like us, in their garage or out in the gyms having a blast. And I love that community. And Steve has started doing live streams of his sessions, which I think is really cool.
That's cool.
And if you look, I can't believe you didn't shout out at Testpiece Josh, because his account is incredible. But sorry, okay. The reason why I bring this up is that the way I started, it used to be the barn board, and I did 2019, and I posted a video of like every climb, basically all the benchmarks. And the reason why I bring it up is that something that I used to do is I would post the video of the climb, and I'd be sure to make sure that the name and grade was on the front cover for you. But then I do a little reel where I talked about the climb and the setter and what I liked about it for a minute. And it occurred to me, like, instead of just seeing someone do the climb, like, it's cool to kind of hear a breakdown. Like, oh, I thought about doing this beta. It didn't work out for me. And to me, what Steve's doing with that live stream, it's something I had thought about too, but I love seeing him do it, where now that's real time. Now there's someone who's an expert at the MoonBoard, as Steve is, and he's talking about, you see how he breaks down the climb. You see where he fails, how he deals with that failure, how he figures out beta. And I would love to see more of that by people, where send videos are great, but on these climbs where we're all able to try them as well, understanding how different people approach it with different sizes. Steve's big, his wife is smaller, and, getting to see in real time or document that process that they go through, rather than just, wow, that looked cool. Like, I would love to see more of that. I applaud Steve for bringing that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's definitely something that I am looking to do in the future. I mean, I just don't have a lot of time, honestly, to commit to it. Like, we're making other videos, and once I get to the end of the day and I'm just climbing on the board, I'm like, I just want to climb on the board. But That is really cool. I think that's like the next phase of like what a really good board account is. It's talking through it. I think the live stream thing, like seeing it in real time, and then also just if you're an avid setter, right? Like telling people about the inspiration or how to do it, how you ended up making. That's something that we're now backfilling with our Patreoners. We're like going back and saying, like, kind of breaking down boulders that we like or that we set, and we say why we like them and why we set them and how we set them. So yeah, I think that is sort of the next phase of it, to sort of, instead of just seeing the send, which I think is kind of it's the same way with outdoor stuff, right? Yeah. In Instagram, like you never see the process, but that part's really insightful. I think
I would love to see more on that route setting side, because this is like we were just talking about what makes something good, and I kind of push the idea that perhaps it's just having some kind of point of view, and it could be like, hey, there was this left hand undercling, and I just really wanted that experience of being in a drop knee with my right leg and reaching as far, getting that body tension opposition on that undercling. And so this was the hold that I chose to really demonstrate that. And again, I would argue that in some ways that's what makes something good, is that there's a reason behind it. There's a demonstration of a technique. And typically when you do that, you usually set it so it's not awkward to do that thing. It's just like, it's the archetype of what that move should be. And so getting to hear when Flo or you guys say like, man, I just got inspired by this sloper. I wanted to show how you could toe hook to make that sloper good on a 60 degree. And here's what we came up with, versus just, I mean, I guess that steals some of the mystery sometimes out of it. But I don't know, whatever. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I think it's a teachable moment. I think it's probably is a good idea to start integrating some of that content. But
okay, more things on the to-do list. Tons of fun, man. I love these. I'm glad that we're the most popular board climbing podcast in the world, and let's keep doing them.
Yeah, man. And I'll work on that jingle.
Oh, it was pretty good.
I'll work on that jingle. Yeah. I'll figure some more out. I'll throw them your way. See if we can get one to stick.
Awesome. Can't wait. All right. See you next month.
All right, man.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like even more content, go to patreon.com/testpiece. And while you're at it, share this podcast with someone you know who would love it. And please leave us a review or rating at wherever you get your podcasts. We've also got tons of great content on YouTube and Instagram, so don't forget to like and subscribe there. Okay, see you next week.